The UNC football team is 4-0 for the first time since 1997. So in lieu of that, let's talk about what is the ceiling for this year's North Carolina football team. Let's go for a ride in the Tar Heel Mobile and talk about it.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It's your favorite North Carolinian, Russ the Tar Heel. And in this episode of the Tar Heel Mobile Russ's Rant, I want to talk about what is the ceiling for this year's UNC football team. And like I said, it's the first time since 1997 that the North Carolina Tar Heels are 4-0 to start the season. They're top 15 in both polls. So I think, obviously, let me preface it with this. You take every game one game at a time. You know, Larry Fedora had a big thing where it was, let's go 1-0. And I'm sure a lot of coaches, use that type of talk in order to describe what they expect from their team. Let's not worry about the rest of the season. Let's worry about one game at a time. But you know what? I'm not a player on the North Carolina team, okay? I'm a fan. And so therefore, they need to focus, one game at a time. As for me and mine, this is what we do as far as, just having fun with the season. And we're in unprecedented territory as a fan for almost 2.5 decades. So I think that it's, pretty exciting and pretty fun to talk about what should we expect from this North Carolina football team. Now, if you haven't already, my preseason prediction, I had the North Carolina Tar Heels going 11-1. And a lot of people thought that was silly. A lot of people saw, before the bye week, the Heels going 2-2. Even the most optimistic people said 3-1. Somewhere, Carolina is going to slip up. And you know what? In previous years, I would have shared the same sentiment. And a lot of people use the latter portion of last year to talk about how, that would be the reason why this North Carolina team maybe struggled out the gate. They don't have the discipline, the focus, et cetera, et cetera. But I was willing to put my money on Mack Brown. Year 5, all the things that he had promised, and we're talking about a Hall of Fame football coach. Now, I'm not going to lie. There were definitely times where I wondered if, it was one of those fleeting thoughts. If I wondered to myself, has Mack lost his touch? Getting out of coaching when he left Texas, going into working for ESPN and just sportscasting, whatever you call it, and then coming back into coaching, would he be able to accomplish the mission that he basically told us he would accomplish? And there were some fleeting moments where I wondered if he could do it. And then I kind of just thought to myself, what type of coach is Mack Brown? People respect him. The media respects him. Players respect him. He has a winning history. I mean, he's the only coach in college football history to have over 100 wins at 2 different programs. That is saying something. And obviously he won a national championship at the University of Texas. Now, he had North Carolina on the cusp, if you will, to a certain extent, of being one of those perennial top 5 teams, but it just didn't come to fruition after he left for Texas the first time. So coming back, you're wondering, can he finish the mission? Can he come back and accomplish what he called unfinished business? And I was willing to put my money on Mack Brown. And so far, I would say that's money well spent. The North Carolina Tar Heels are 4-0 for the first time since 1997. And we're not talking about 3-point wins. We're talking about 2 and 3 score wins. Against quality opponents. One of very few teams in the country that have 3 wins in the first 4 weeks versus Power 5 teams. And that's saying something. That is saying something. So the question now, because I hear a lot of people, they're like, well, I'm willing to change my trajectory of where I think the program is going. And people are like, well, I thought maybe, the ceiling was 8 wins, 9 wins, another 9-win season. And there are actually people that are like, and as a Carolina fan, we should be pleased with that. And I've been barking about how that would be an unsuccessful year, considering last year was 9 wins. Sam Howell, Drake May, possibly his final year in Chapel Hill. We need to do something great, and this is the year to do it. And what do you know? We are on the cusp, at least through the first third of the season, of doing something special. So, like I said, what is the ceiling for this North Carolina team? We're about to get into a pivotal stretch that is going to tell us a lot. Now, Syracuse, coming out of the bye week, that's always an uneasy time for me because you never know necessarily what team is going to show up. 2 weeks, easy to kind of get some cobwebs going, some dust. You got to shake it off a little bit, but you're well rested. And so I'm really hoping that that focus that seems to have permeated throughout this program in the first 4 weeks, is going to extend into the second part of this 3-part series if you divide these up into 4 football games, if you will. And I think that they will. I really, truly think that they will. Mac Brown has said in his press conferences all week that the Heels have had great practices. He's been extremely impressed with their focus, and these guys are on a mission. And you know what? It's about time. It's about time, and I'm excited to hear that because I really do think that with the schedule, and this is what I said when I put out my preview, man, it had to have been 3 months ago, very early preview. The schedule lines up perfectly that if the Heels can handle business, if they play to their potential, they can have a special season. And they're 4-0 right now. Now, coming out of that bye week, we talk about Syracuse. This is a game that could be competitive. It could be competitive, but it is a game that we should win. Now, the real test, and this is me as a fan, not as a coach, not as an athlete. I'm allowed to look ahead. I'm allowed to do that. The players, they're not allowed to do that. They need to focus on Syracuse. Assuming that we handle business against the Qs, okay, we go into a real pivotal matchup against the Miami Hurricanes, okay? The Miami Hurricanes are playing very good football right now. Now, they haven't really played anybody, but what you can say about Miami is the teams that are on their schedule, they have handled business. And, that is one of the things that I think kind of shows you that they're playing at a different level. It's one thing if you're 4-0 and you're playing cupcakes and you're kind of just, sneaking by them. No, Miami has handled business, and that's a formidable opponent. And that is going to tell us a ton. And if Miami beats Georgia Tech and Carolina handles business against Syracuse, guess what? You got 2 top 15 teams meeting in Chapel Hill, undefeated, 5-0, and that may be the game. That may be the very game that decides who, and we're assuming that Florida State handles business the rest of the season as well, that decides who plays them in the ACC championship game. I mean, it's that important of a game. And then after that, Carolina kind of goes into this phase of opponents that, obviously we have not had a lot of success against Georgia Tech. We're going to have to go down to Atlanta. We got to exercise some demons down there because they have, for all intents and purposes, ruined a couple of our opportunities to have some special seasons, starting with, obviously, last year. You got to play Virginia, which is not very good at all, but technically that is a rivalry game. And then you play Campbell before you get into that stretch with Duke, Clemson, and NC State. So, looking at Syracuse, which should be a win, and we'll talk about this when we get into Miami week. Assuming that Carolina obviously handles business against Syracuse, Miami is in year 2 of Mario Cristobal. And the Tar Heels are in year 5 of Mac Brown. And so I think that means something. Now, I think that the Miami Hurricanes are on the up and up. And I think that Mario Cristobal has them on a trajectory to be excited about if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan. But he's in year 2, opposed to Mac Brown being in year 5. And I think that means something. And so, the question is if North Carolina can beat Syracuse and then they can weather the storm, if you will, against Miami, and then they go into Georgia Tech, Virginia, Campbell, dude, we're talking about being 9-0 going into the Duke game, which I will be attending, which would be insane. It would be insane. Because then you got 3 huge, emotional games. Oh my goodness, what a time that would be. You play Duke. We don't know if Riley Leonard is going to be back from his injury. Then you have to go to Death Valley against a really, really good Clemson team. I don't care what anybody says. And you got to try to handle business against them. And then you end the season. You end the season in Raleigh against a down NC State team. We'll see what MJ Morris, obviously they're switching quarterbacks right now. We'll see if MJ Morris can help propel them and get that offense back on track. Obviously, I hope that he falls flat on his face because we hate the Wolfsack around here. But the point is what is North Carolina's ceiling? Now, like I mentioned before, I picked at the beginning of the season that the Tar Heels would go 11-1. And where I stand right now, I still believe at this moment, because I think that Clemson is starting to kind of, they're a little pissed off, and we'll see how they play for the rest of the season. But I still think that game in Death Valley is going to be difficult. But I will also say this. I am more confident in Carolina's chances to pull off that upset now than I was at the beginning of the season. And so, assuming that, we're not going to count Syracuse, because I think that if Carolina loses to Syracuse, that would be an upset. It'd be a major upset, okay? Because there's no reason that we should lose to that team. I'm not saying that Syracuse can't be competitive, but where we are at as a program right now, that should not be an issue at the end of the day. We should win that game. Miami, assuming we get through Miami, and assuming that Carolina is focused like they have been the first 4 games of the season, and they have that agenda, they have that goal, they are focused on the task at hand, like I think Mac is really getting done right now, assuming that they get through Miami, and they get through the Virginia, Georgia Tech, Campbell, and then they beat Duke at home. Still should beat Duke, even though it's a very well-coached team that's going to be a battle. If they can somehow beat Clemson. And then get some vengeance in Raleigh. hey, it is not far-fetched. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is not far-fetched for the Tar Heels to end the regular season at 12-0. Now, right now, like I said, I still got them at 11-1 because I still think that Clemson is Clemson. I really do. But I feel a lot more confident about that game. It's more of a toss-up. Maybe I got it 55-45 Clemson, 60-40 Clemson right now. It's in Death Valley. Depends on what they're playing for. They're obviously going to be playing for a lot of pride. But if North Carolina goes in there undefeated, you know they're going to have a chip on their shoulder too, and they're going to want to prove themselves to the country. And what better place to do that than Death Valley, where Florida State's already got a W. So they go, hypothetically, 12-0, and then they face Florida State in the ACC championship game. We'll just because that's, you know, the team that everybody believes is kind of like maybe a shoe-in. I don't really know if they're a shoe-in, but you know, I definitely believe they have a better shot than anybody else. But I think Carolina is the second team. Is Florida State unbeatable? No, they're not. They are not. It's not an unbeatable team. Can the North Carolina Tar Heels compete with them? Yes. Will they? I don't know. I mean, we're only in week 6. Will they? I don't know. We're just playing hypotheticals here. What is the ceiling? Not what is going to happen. What is in the realm of actual possibilities? Given what we've seen, what we know is coming, etc., etc. Tell you what the ceiling is. The ceiling is that the North Carolina Tar Heels could theoretically be 12-0 going into the ACC championship game against, once again, a team that is very, very good, but that is not unbeatable. And we've seen that. Boston College almost having a shot to beat them. Clemson, you could argue maybe should have beat them. And then at what? That makes Carolina 13-0. And then 13-0, first ACC championship since 1980. What does that mean? Well, you just ran the table in the Atlantic Coast Conference, which is up this year. Got 5 teams in the top 25 right now. You just ran the table. You know what that means? College football playoff. Now, if that didn't already get you like, bro, you are stinking out of your mind, which I'm sure 8 out of 10 people on here, especially those that are not Carolina fans and don't follow the program, you know, they're going to be like, bro, that's ridiculous. It's North Carolina. Okay. Hey, bet. Understood, man. I get the mockery. I get it. Completely get it, especially if you're on the outside looking in. But when you followed this team, and you have a really good idea of the coaching staff and the player personnel that they have, and if they're just put in the right position and they got the right focus day in and day out with the right leadership. I mean, this is different, man. Drake, great leader. You know who else is a stinking great leader? Cedric Gray. From all accounts, when Ced talks, people listen, and he demands excellence. This is his last rodeo. So if you don't think that this means something to Cedric Gray, you're out of your mind. These boys want to win. So let's just say that hypothetically they run the table, ACC champions in 2023. I would say that already off the jump, Mac has delivered on what he said he would bring back to Chapel Hill. Obviously, it'd be the greatest season in North Carolina history. Whether Drake goes to New York or not is irrelevant. It'd be the greatest season in North Carolina history. But then you're in the college football playoff. And then I also got to ask you this. With the parity that's in college football right now, is there any team that you can definitively 100% say, like probably in the last 4 or 5 years with Georgia and Alabama, that team is unbeatable? No, there's not. The transfer portal has, as great as Georgia has recruited over the past couple of years, which is at an unprecedented level, maybe even greater, obviously, than when Alabama was in its heyday. I mean, Georgia is getting some crazy recruiting classes. They are not demolishing people. They look not as explosive. Just talking about Georgia, just Georgia. Alabama's probably already out of it. There's a couple of teams. Clemson's not going to be there. I think Washington looks good, but Washington just had a really close game. USC just had a really close game against Colorado. Once again, without Travis Hunter, probably their best player. So, once again, Carolina goes to the playoff. If they're 13-0, I can imagine, assuming that Georgia runs the table, which I'm not even sure that that's going to transpire this year. I mean, it may. They very well may. But I would say that if Carolina goes 13-0 and they run the table in the Atlantic Coast Conference, they're a 2 seed. Maybe a team like Washington that is also undefeated in the Pac-12, I mean, maybe they're the 2 seed. Carolina gets the 3 seed and they play Washington in the first game. Is Washington unbeatable? No. They're not. Is USC unbeatable? No. They're not. Caleb Williams is a stud, man, and that offense is great. But that defense is suspect. I think their defense is more suspect than our defense. Because I don't even think that our defense is necessarily suspect anymore. Because we do have playmakers, man. They just got to be put in the right position. And that is super exciting. I mean, I'm telling you right now, Tar Heel Nation, don't sleep on this team. Don't look to the past and say, this is out of the realm of possibility. Now, once again, I am not saying that these things will come to fruition. The topic was, what is reasonably a possibility of North Carolina's ceiling? I think it's clear as day that their ceiling, realistically, with the parity that is in college football and the Atlantic Coast Conference right now, that they could win the Atlantic Coast Conference and they could be a playoff contender. And then even more so than that, when you have arguably the second or, top, we'll just say hypothetically for all those naysayers out there that are down on Drake right now, we'll say a top 5 quarterback in college football, bro, you always got a puncher's chance. You always got a puncher's chance. And you know what happens? If they were to go to a playoff, you know who's back? Number 9, Tez Walker. You think that doesn't add another element to the offense? I mean, that kid's been practicing. He's been on the scout team, from what I heard. So it ain't like he's being stagnant and not preparing. Once again, what is the ceiling? And it ain't the roof. There is no ceiling this year. I'm telling you. You need to jump on the bandwagon now. You need to jump on the bandwagon now. Got a guy that I follow, man, and maybe I'll be collabing with him here soon. I hope so, because I love his content. It's one of the reasons that, I started trying to do this for Tar Heel Nation. Kind of gave me the idea, but he's got he's got a shirt that says something along the lines of, don't be a fan later. Don't be a fan later, bro. You should be on this bandwagon right now. 4-0 for the first time since 1997. You got Drake May as your quarterback. Your defense is competent. O'Marion Hampton and British Brooks are in your backfield. Your wide receivers are proven to be able to make plays. You got one of the best tight end groups in the entire country and one of the most competent coaching staffs in the entire country as well. What is there not to be excited about on this football team? There is no excuse, man. Bro, this is what we've been clamoring for, Tar Heel Nation. You couldn't be in a better spot than what we're in right now. And they've shown that they're here to play football. So we should support them. And we should be excited. We should enjoy this ride, because that's what it is. It's been a long time since we've been undefeated this late into the season. A long time. So what is there not to be excited about? I'm excited, man. I am absolutely exhilarated for the position that my North Carolina Tar Heels are in right now. And I am appreciating the hard work and the coaching staff and the kids and everything that they've put into this football program. I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited. I'm so excited that, I'm just being real. Hey, I'm excited about basketball season too, because I think that Carolina can, and I'm going to be releasing something within the next couple of days, probably about basketball season. But I think we could turn some heads there as well. But bro, there ain't no reason to be looking ahead of that right now. None. Because we have everything that we could possibly want right in front of us on the football side. On the football side, guys. And once again, like I said before, I believed wholeheartedly that we had a really good chance of having a very special season in Chapel Hill. And as of thus far, as of going through week 5, hey, we're right where we want to be, bro. Right where we want to be. Undefeated, top 15. We got 3 home games in a row. Bro, let's rock Kenan Stadium. Let's support this football team. And let's see where this ride takes us. Let's see where the ride takes us, Tar Heel Nation. Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. And it all starts this Saturday with Syracuse. So, let me know down in the comments section what you think. Where's your thermometer at right now? Realistically. Where's your thermometer at, Tar Heel Nation? What do you think about these guys? Are you one of those fair weather people that's, or basketball only fans that, you don't even care about the football team because of the past, that, all that good stuff, or bad stuff if you ask me, or are you excited about this football season? Whether basketball season's coming or not, what do you think is the actual ceiling for this North Carolina team? I really want to know through week 5 going into week 6 what Tar Heel Nation is thinking. Because, could I just be completely out there in right field? I guess I could, man. But I've been following this team for a long time. A long time. And right now, your boy is 4-0 as far as what my predictions were. Go back to my predictions. I had us 4-0 at this point. So I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy, because there were a ton of people that I heard talking about 2-2, 3-1. There were even a couple of people that thought it was just going to be some complete letdown where it was like 1-3 going into the bye. No. I called it, bro. 4-0. Year 5 of Mac. I think it could be a special season. So like I said, put down in the comment section what you think as far as what you're expecting from this Carolina team, what you think the ceiling is. If you haven't already, bro, if you're a Tar Heel fan, do me a favor, man. Like, share, subscribe to this content. Support your boy. We're trying to bring in Tar Heel Nation and get a place where we can all hang out, talk about the football and basketball program. It's been a long time, or shall I say, we've been needing this. and it's here. So support your boy, and we'll see where this ride takes us, man. So, like I said, like, share, subscribe. I love you, Tar Heel Nation. Y'all boys have a very good rest of your week. We will see you on Saturday, son. For the Q's, it'll be chapter 5 in this 12, 13, 14, 15 chapter book. I don't know. We'll see, man. But I'll catch you guys on the next one.